tonight we are so fortunate to have Miss Rebecca Udden from Main Street Theater. Yay, we love Main Street. We're so happy you're here. You know, we are big fans. We love you guys. And thank you for sharing your time with us so much.
Sure. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I think the burning question that most of our audience wants to know, usually right off the top, is what are you doing at Main Street in these COVID times?
Besides talking to us.
Yeah. That's not enough.
I know.
It might just be. And
Yeah.
if that's the answer, that's fine. We'll move on.
No, we've been experimenting with a lot of different things. Early on, we had what we call Main Street at Home, where we asked some of our the actors that our audience are really familiar with if they wanted to do a monologue or sing a song and introduce it, and we can just remind the audience that these are creative individuals and they're still here and they're going to be here when this is over. And then that lately we've done a couple of sessions of what we call, this was Shannon's idea, BYO Bard, because of course the summer Shakespeare festivals were all canceled, so people may be missing their summer Shakespeare.
Yep.
So we did 2 sessions, and we're probably going to do another one either late August, early September. And we just invited actors to pick a monologue. And again, they introduced it and told why they picked it, what it meant to them. And we've had a lot of success with that. People really seem to enjoy that. Just the sort of connection of an actor, like we're speaking here. It's not great. It's not like it is in real time, but it's the next best thing. Yeah. So we did that, and the Theater for Youth had TY Tuesdays, where the TY actors would read a book.
That's good.
At Duck for President, the actors that the kids who've seen a lot of our shows would know. Mm-hmm. And then we had our education department did some online creative sessions early on. And then of course over the summer, our education department has been holding summer camp, both in person and virtual. Scaled back, of course, because we couldn't have the numbers that we usually have, but we've made it through the summer safely, knock on wood, and nobody's had, very strict distancing and mask wearing and cleaning and all of that. But it worked pretty well, and we're going to keep going with some of the kind of evolved program for parents who need somewhere for their kids to go to have supervised computer time with somebody who's not a teacher but a college graduate who can help them get through the lessons, and then take some breaks and do some theater games. And so the education department's been really busy, and they're going to, I hope, continue to be busy.
Well, that's good.
And then the main stage is we're trying to organize some solo shows, waiting for licenses and rights from contracts from Actors Equity. And then the Theater for Youth. What?
Those solo shows would be intended for an online platform?
Yeah. So there'll be, it will, again, my feeling is the most successful online experience is a person talking directly to you. So, that's why I thought the solo shows, because we just don't have the whiz-band technology to put together, those fancy productions.
We're right there with you. We got that together. We're on the same team there.
But our Theater for Youth, when we shut down at the Match, we actually had 2 shows at Match. We had the musical Adventures of Flat Stanley, and we had the touring production of The Cat in the Hat was going to do some public performances. So we just got permission this week from the Match board to film those, and we're going to make those available to the schools if they want either of those productions. And I'm not sure what we'll be able to do for the public. Probably have some opportunity for the public to purchase a ticket and see those.
Well, I'm really glad that those kids are going to get to have something recorded to
Yeah.
for school. Because
Of course
one of the worst things is kids not having any art, you know, and that's
Yeah.
you guys are going to be able to provide something to stream into their home
Right.
classrooms or their regular classrooms. I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of online content for kids,
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of online entertainment. But I think, especially the kids that have been coming to us for a long time, they know these people. These are the TY actors go, you know, they go to McDonald's and kids go, oh, look, it's Flat Stanley.
I know.
You know?
Kids love their favorite actors.
It's just great.
Yeah, and it's also great because you're giving some jobs to some actors.
Yep.
God knows we need, you know, the fact that there's some work available is really important right now. So that's a wonderful thing that you'll be able to provide some jobs, even if it's just for a short time. So that's
Right.
great. Yeah, good.
So, you know, we're trying to keep busy within the boundaries of what we think is really acceptable and what we know we can do well. That's the thing. It's what can we do well that will distinguish us from other people.
So I'm curious about something about the educational component of Main Street and I you can call it educational, but I'm talking about theater for children, which you obviously have made a huge commitment to.
Yep.
One of the few theaters in town who has made a commitment to it and stuck by it for a long time. But I want to tie this into, you know, you're the founder of Main Street Theater. And so let's tie it in by me asking you, when you founded Main Street, was children's theater on your mind then, or did that come later? And if so, when?
It was always on my mind because I was involved with children's theater when I was a kid. The university had a children's theater program where the students and graduate students had the major roles, but then children from the area also could have small parts in these shows. So I knew what a real boon it was for kids to have shows to come to, and the schools always came to it. So I knew that if one of the founding principles of Main Street Theater is providing work for people, providing jobs. So I knew that if we could develop a theater for youth program, it would provide a lot of work for people, and it does. We have lots and lots of a lot of work for mostly young performers. It's kind of a young person's gig. We do 3 shows a day, 5 days a week sometimes. So it's mostly for, you know, young professionals who may have a recent degree and want to get some seasoning under their belt, and they'll do everything from Anne Frank to playing animals. You know, it's a pretty broad range of what we ask them to do.
Well, most professional actors cut their chops on children's theater. I mean, most of us have done it at some point in our life because it's because you work so much, you actually get paychecks that are reasonable, and you work a lot, and you gotta get your chops up to do that children's theater.
I was going to say that the percentage of professional Houston actors who either started out or did a show early in their career at Main Street Youth Theater must be, what would you guess? 50% of everybody who's here? 40?
Not really. Just because, but you know, I'm sure there you know, people like Joel Sandell and you know, Rodney Walsworth. This is going to be a little bit of a long story, but so back when we were younger and we only had Times Boulevard, and we had a staff of about 8 people who did everything. We performed in the kids' theater, we directed, we built this, we did everything. So we were doing, for the Theater for Youth, we were doing Hank the Cowdog. And then because we had 3 nights where we weren't performing, we thought, well, let's do some shows for a middle school age in the evenings, you know, not weekend shows, but, you know, maybe an early evening. So we were doing a main stage production of Hamlet, and we had such a turnout at auditions that we said, well, why don't we do a Cornerstone Classic? That was the program. Why don't we do a Cornerstone Classic Hamlet at the same time? We use the same set, you know. So Rodney is getting ready to do his Hank the Cowdog with Joel. Rodney's playing Hank and Joel's playing Drover, the shaky little white dog, who is Hank's best friend. Rodney's, painting. Rodney was playing Hamlet. Rodney's painting the nose, the dog nose. He said, "Yes, but have you seen my Hamlet?" I mean, it's just one of those moments that you just love what you're doing.
That's awesome. That's so good.
That's when we were young and had energy.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
That's great.
Well, so let's go on with this a little bit. Let's go back to when we were all young, and you were founders of Fourth Wall Theater, obviously, and so I sort of know the answer to this question, but why the heck did you found a theater?
Oh, I can't even answer that anymore. Not in COVID.
I'm not sure I remember, and it was 10 years ago. And how old is Main Street now?
40 or something?
We're 45th. If we get to do this season, it's going to be our 45th.
40.
Crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So in 1970 something, you decided
75. Mm-hmm.
What did you want? What made you? I'm being silly because we did it for a very specific reason.
Yeah, sure.
And I have a feeling you had a specific reason too, or something you saw lacking. What was it?
I had done theater at Rice.
Oh, show our picture of Becky at Rice.
Oh no!
Look at Becky.
Oh my God.
There she is.
What is that from? Good heavens.
From Owen Wister Literary Society's.
The Owls. Okay.
From the Owls. Yeah, there you go. Gorgeous. Look at that.
Oh my heavens.
Just like always.
But in those days, the Rice Players were the theater in town that did the really boundary pushing theater. We did Marat Sade, A Macbeth by Charles Merowitz. We were doing, we did a broad range of things, but we did really boundary pushing theater, and most everything else that was being done was either Agatha Christie or Broadway shows or the Alley was, they did the Alley's repertory is pretty broad too. And I went to graduate school for a year and realized academic theater was not what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, why don't I go back to Houston? There was an audience for the kind of plays I want to do. Let me see, let me just see what happens. And there was just a kind of critical mass of people in the mid 70s who wanted to work professionally in the theater, but didn't want to have to move to New York or Chicago or LA.
Sure.
And so we just thought, well, all right, let's start one and see if it'll catch on. And at the same time that we founded Main Street, Stages was founded, the Ensemble was founded, and there were two other theaters, Equinox and Chocolate Bayou, that were founded around the same time. And Equinox lasted 5 years and Chocolate Bayou lasted about 15 or 20. So there really was that kind of critical mass of people who wanted to stay in Houston. So yeah. And the other thing is, we started as a collective. It wasn't me saying, I'm going to have a theater. It was a group of people, and eventually everybody got a real job, and I sort of was left holding the baby.
Well, you did a good job raising the baby.
Do those people of that original collective, do any of those people come back and do shows from time to time, or are they all gone?
Probably the person who's been most recently active is probably Steve Garfinkel, who was one of the founders. Sure. He's kind of retired now, but he's been running the program out at the JCC. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Not anybody that's on stage. Patty Bean wasn't in the very first year, but she was. She joined the company pretty quickly, and so there are still people who've been doing this for a while.
Yeah,
that's neat.
That's great. Yeah.
So then, since we're in the past, did you have a mentor? And if so, who would that be?
Well, I'd say my primary mentor was Sandy Havens at Rice, who was the director of the Rice Players.
Mm-hmm.
He worked collaboratively. Everything was done as an ensemble. Rice didn't have at that time, Rice didn't have a theater major. You didn't major in theater.
Right.
So everything we did was extracurricular, and the students had to pretty much do everything. So you learned by making really whopping mistakes, and and he let us.
Great.
But his approach was collaborative, and he always picked really smart plays that were really challenging, and just kept an ensemble of happy people for the most part. And that's just the way I like to work.
Mm-hmm.
I also did summer theater at the University of Tennessee, where I'm from, outdoor theater in the mountains, Smoky Mountains. And that was run, Fred Fields, who was the director of that program, had the same kind of approach, it was ensemble based, collaborative. Let's all be nice to each other.
Yeah.
And let's do good work.
So this person at Rice, did you say Sandy Havens?
Sandy Havens, Neil Havens, yeah. Not Sam Havens, who was at University of St. Thomas.
Right.
No, Sandy Neil Havens was the theater director at Rice.
Great. Okay. Because I know and have worked a little bit with Sam Havens.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I thought we were
People
talking
always thought they were the same person, but they're not.
No. Okay. Good. All right. Well, glad we got that clear.
Yeah, right.
Did you know? But you were also in these shows when you were a kid with professional actors
with acting student actors, with college student actors
in Tennessee.
Yeah. University of Tennessee. Yeah.
How old were you when you first did that?
12, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's not what I studied in college. My major was French. I was going to go into the Foreign Service. I was going to be a diplomat. I was going to travel. I was going to be Miss International.
Yeah. Well, I went there with you. I was going to be an archaeologist. See? So I was like, I'm going. And then I thought, oh, but wait, I have to stay on the same site for years?
Yeah,
oh, that's not really what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I spent so much time as an undergraduate doing theater, which was all extracurricular. I was grateful that the French department allowed me to major in French and allowed me to get a degree in French so that I could get out of college. But I realized by the end of it that that's really what I wanted to do.
By then, yeah.
Right. Well, I think, your theater and my opinion about a lot of the work that you guys do is just so intellectually superior and challenging to a lot of what we see. I know I'm a Stoppard fan too. So I'm like, I know if I want to see a Stoppard play, all I got to do is wait a while and you're going to do it. Because, so I kind of go, well, they do them. Let them do them. They do them well. Let them do them. And the 𝗫𝗏𝗀 great comedy, 𝗫𝗏𝗀's great comedies, you guys do so beautifully. And just a whole slew of amazing, beautiful plays, Laura Gunderson's plays. I mean, you do really smart, important topic plays that deal with really intelligent conversations. And I love that about you guys. I don't know if that's a conscious decision. I think it probably is on some level.
I mean, our audience expects plays that will spark their curiosity. And that's what I look for is plays that make me curious about an idea, about a person. The Lauren Gunderson is always so great about writing these plays about people you've never heard of.
Great people, yeah.
Real people that you've never heard of.
Yeah, she's great at that.
So yeah, we do fluff from time to time.
Sure.
But
I don't mean to say
it's not that I'm against it.
No, of course, and us too. But I totally hear you. But you do pick really, really beautiful, strong, powerful language plays.
Yeah.
that I
Yeah,
think
language is pretty, and I think this, our first 8 years we were at Autry House, which is next to Palmer Church. We worked in the refectory, which was just a big open room. So
we do that too. There we go.
Yeah, there we are. Yep.
Yeah.
So we had to strike every night and restore the cafeteria. So so the words and the interpretation and the acting was, we could never rely on fancy sets or, smashing special effects. It all had to be between us and the audience. So that's, I think that really set our style from the very beginning, the intimate, honest, just talking to the audience.
Well, I love that about you guys, because obviously we love that too.
Yes.
So that's very inspirational to us, because we like the same, intimate, up close performances where that language and everything is so intimate and immediate for everybody. Yeah, I love that about you guys too.
And I think, when we go to each other's plays, we see a lot of the same people, because our audience likes those plays too.
I think that's right.
And you or Main Street, you're not afraid also of a huge challenge. I'm thinking of the insanity of mounting all 3 plays of
Coast to Utopia,
or
Wolf
all
Hall.
2 plays of Wolf Hall.
Oh yeah, there's your Coast to Utopia, which was
Utopia.
just stunning, by the way. And I'm a tough critic because, of course, like you, we're artistic directors. We see a ton of theater. And I just thoroughly loved that entire piece. I'm so happy you did it. It was a gift to this city. Anybody who doesn't understand what that took for you to do that, they need to sit down and think about it.
I remember seeing it in New York, and I made the trips up to New York 3 times to see those plays, and of course the Lincoln Center productions were just magnificent, hundreds of extras. But what I realized about halfway through the second one was, this is really a play about interesting people having conversations and arguments about things that they're passionate about. This is conversations. These are people working out their revolutionary theory. This is not about big splashy events. These are one-on-one, 3-on-1 conversations. So, once you take that attitude, it's really not easy, but it was an easier production than you would expect, especially with the acting pool in Houston. I mean, the acting pool here is great.
Yeah, it was really terrific. And
so, we get asked a lot, and we're going to ask you this: how do you pick a season? And of course, Kim and I, know we've discussed this with other artistic directors. But what is the first thing? What is? No, I'm not gonna lead it at all. How do you pick a season?
Well,
if you want me to lead it, I can.
No, as I see plays, as I read plays, there are plays that really speak to me, or that I think, oh, this is exciting, or so-and-so would be great in this role, or I see something that I think, oh man, I really want to do that play. And so you get a few of those, and people make suggestions, and so you have a big board with all these, titles up there, and there are certain times of year that you can do certain plays. You have your dead of winter spot where you can get really serious right after Christmas. But then before Christmas, you have to have the warm and fuzzy show. And you really want to open the season with something substantial to sort of make your mark. And then as the year goes on, you just hope people will still come. So, so, you start with about 10, 12, 15 plays, and just start whittling it down based on, we don't have the budget to do that one.
Right.
This one's too much like that one. So let's keep it up, keep the mix going.
Yeah. And I know, do you experience this too, that, people don't understand that sometimes with titles, we can't get them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like held up. So sometimes I'm like, well, I got to wait till next year. I've even called you a couple times and go, are you sitting on this, Becky? And you're like, it's not me. And I'm like, oh, All right.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's really the biggest thing. You know, there are plays I want to do, and so then I write and see if we can get a license.
Yeah.
And you know, 50% of the time we can't because somebody larger, and I understand that.
Of course.
Well, making a living as a playwright, my gosh, you know.
And sometimes the playwright's, agent is saying, hey, the big theaters don't want it this year. Let's wait one more year.
Right.
They just want to sit on it one more year and see if, we're small, you and I, we're not going to pay a big payday to them. So I get it. But it's frustrating when you're like, please, but When I called, I think I phoned about the Coast of Utopia. Yeah.
The agent said, oh, knock yourself out.
Oh, that's great. Like nobody's doing this play.
Yeah, nobody's lining up for that one.
That's great.
I always think it's worth mentioning because I think a lot of our audiences don't understand that the playwright makes a whole lot more money if a play gets done at a theater with more seats and higher ticket prices and all that. So if a play is done at the Alley, the playwright is getting a bigger payday than if it's done at Main Street.
Absolutely. It's based on the amount you take in. You pay a certain percentage of that to the playwright, and they should get as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, we feel the same way. Although we're always
it's
like,
always sad.
Done that play.
But of course, we want them to
love that
do well.
But I do hate it when someone sits on a play so long that then when it finally becomes available, it's not interesting.
It's past its prime, so to speak. Right. Yeah. I get really frustrated by that as well. I don't mind a year, but when you've gone to 4 years, it's like, well, now there's another 150 plays, and I'm yeah.
But it doesn't feel like that's going to happen as much in this town anymore, right?
I don't think so. I mean, there's such collaboration here among the theaters. I mean, it's a new day.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think
things have changed.
And I do think we're all very interested in helping each other get the best programming we can and have people see, because the more people who want to see theater, the more theaters they're going to go to, and the more they're going to tell other people to go see theater. And I think we all understand that, hey, the best titles and the best work that's going and pumping through out there, we're just going to have more and more people out. And I think that's great. Yeah.
I want to ask you this. We've asked some other artistic directors this question. So you've produced some online material for MST. Do you think that material has helped you reach a different audience than ever before?
Well, we're reaching people further away. Well, for instance, the Bring Your Own Bard, the last, we had people watching from California, from Seattle. It's not huge numbers, but we do, people who've moved away and don't get to see Main Street shows, they tune in. I think it will help just spread the word, not just throughout the country, but also in Houston, because it's so easy for someone to post something on Facebook and say, oh, I just saw this, it was great. It's amazing how many people don't know we exist, even though we've been here for 45 years.
Right.
People are constantly moving into Houston, and maybe they don't know about the theater scene. So yeah, I think anything we can do online, and as long as it's good quality that is interesting, I think it will help spread the word.
Do you think if the magic pill comes out tomorrow and COVID is suddenly gone, are you going to keep producing online content?
I think we'll up our game. I mean, we were always doing video promos and things like that. Right. I think we'll up our game in the online. I think there are things that we can do that won't detract from our main programming. But I mean, it does take time. It takes, especially Shannon, her time is really kind of consumed by these special projects.
Now you've mentioned this Shannon person a couple times. I know who it is, and you know who that is, but tell our audience who you're talking about.
This is Shannon Emmerich, our Director of Marketing and Communications, and also one of our acting company. And
Yep.
a wonderful actress.
She's an icon. Everybody loves Shannon. She's fantastic.
Yes.
People would be lucky to have her on their stage. So you're very fortunate to have her doing that for you.
Yeah. So she works very hard for us. And, you know, I have a great staff. That's really, you know, people say, oh, this theater you built. It's not that. It's what I do best is gather people together and help them move forward together, you know. And my staff, if I were to be run over by a truck tomorrow, the staff could just keep right on going. And Andrew, who's the associate artistic director for the main stage, he could pick another season and really kind of, this is Andrew Ruthven, for those of you who don't know him. He's also our audience services man and production manager. So everybody on the staff wears 2 or 3 hats, but they've all been with the theater for a substantial amount of time, and it makes things very easy and very very fluid. And it made it easy for us to kind of pivot and figure out what to do in this COVID era to you know.
Yeah, you know, I think about, like, we haven't, I mean, obviously this show is online content, but as far as like performance content, we haven't produced anything yet, and we probably will do so. Unless that pill comes out tomorrow that I was talking about. But
your lips to God's ears.
I know, right?
But the idea of, you know, we produce 4 shows a year, and every year it feels like we're at that limit of what we can possibly do.
Yeah.
And so to think about then trying to do that and produce online content makes me think, okay, well, no. Unless we hire more staff.
Yeah. And that's what people, I think, don't understand. That's important with the 2 of us sitting here, because we're the, you know, you're a bigger theater than we are even, but you're still small and we're really small. And so people don't understand it's tough. We're not filmmakers. So it's like, we're theater makers. So asking us to reinvent ourselves as filmmakers and then, or hire filmmakers who are not cheap, that's a whole nother set of things we have to do. And I'm like, so yeah, we want to be present online. We want to do.
I think we'll find things that are not, we like the 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝘀.
That's
you know,
a great
things like that are low tech, but really satisfying.
Exactly.
And you know, keep the communication with the audience. I think we can keep doing that. We're not going to produce online plays, you know.
Right. I mean, I'm not shooting a national production. Yeah. I don't think I could afford it even if I wanted to do it, but.
So we have a question from our board member who I remember seeing on stage at Main Street, Dan O'Brien, I'm talking.
Yeah.
I saw him in 𝗕𝗏𝗆𝗄𝗎 at Main Street. And but his question is, and I think he's talking about when we go back into production, the live production. Assuming we find a way to produce live again, if this disease stays with us, what's it going to do to production? Do you think? Could be smaller plays? Is it going to be? Do you have a feeling for that at all?
Well, it depends on what conditions we're returning in. If we're returning at 50% capacity, yeah, they're going to be very small plays. Sure. If we can get back to, and say in a year or so, if we can get back to, people can walk into the theater, they can hang around the lobby and talk to each other, they can, you know, sit without a mask next to each other. If we can get back to that, I don't think it will change what we produce.
Sure.
It's going to take us a while to recover. I mean, everybody, and I'm sure you found this too, you know, we had a fundraiser, we had fundraising activities in the spring, and our audience was really pretty generous. knowing what we were going through. That's gonna begin to dry up, because if this thing goes on forever, everybody's gonna be everybody's gonna be pretty tightened. So, you know, if we can just hang on. And I think we will. We've got a budget. We're planning to. We have a budget that allows us to stay really lean for 6 to 8 months, and then hopefully we can start producing on a small scale, and then then grow. But it's going to be a challenge.
I'm laughing because we've seen each other on these artistic director meetings. We should tell our audience that we've Rob Melrose, the fairly new artistic director of the Alley, suggested that we all meet on a regular basis, artistic directors, and we've done it, I guess, once in person, which I missed, and then several times on Zoom. It's this fucking disease, I may say.
There it is, no bleep.
Yeah. But it always makes me laugh, because everybody's always saying, we go around and say, what have we been doing? And everybody goes, well, we just made our 7th budget because we don't know what's happening.
We have no idea what we're doing.
Trying to plan stuff, and now we're going to make our 8th budget, considering the fact that we have to have.
Well, remember in March we thought, oh well, Houston doesn't have it very bad. We can, we can just suck it up, and we'll shut down for a couple of months, and then we'll reopen in the summer, and everything will be.
I had all my actors ready to be back at Riverside and Crazy in 5 weeks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the optimism of anybody who's running a theater. You just have to assume that things are gonna turn out.
You do. Yeah.
Like the line from Shakespeare in Love.
Yes. It's
a mystery.
Mystery. So we had some other questions, I guess, that we should ask you. Somebody, anonymous attendee, wanted to know what you think. You mentioned this a little bit when you talked about creating a great team and an ensemble, but what do you think it takes to be an artistic director and run a theater season after season? Because you've been one for so long. I think that's a good question. Maybe to extend it out into that respect a little.
Well, I think every company is different. Many companies are leader driven, a strong leader who sets the vision and takes everyone forward, and gets a strong board, and is acclaimed and grows that way. Main Street has always just been artist driven. What do the people who work with Main Street and for Main Street want to be doing? And we've changed over the years. There was a time when we did a lot of classics, especially classics by women, and then we started doing more contemporary plays, and we always had a kind of old we always tried to resurrect something that hadn't been seen in years, and now we're evolved into I don't know if there's one word, but it's a lot of it's driven by the people that work with us. They tell me what they're interested in doing, or I know what Joel Sandell doesn't play young men anymore, so the repertoire changes as we change. And so many young people, we did a couple of collaborations with the University of Houston, when especially that year that they didn't have a theater because the Alley was using it, and so I have a lot of and we get a lot of Sam Houston kids who work in our Theater for Youth. So there are all these really talented young people coming, and I just try to get a sense of what would be challenging to the artists, and so I think my method of keeping the company alive is keeping the artists engaged, and that's all of our growth is. I mean, we've had a good board, and we've had good donors, but for most of our history, we earned 75% of our budget with our own efforts.
Wow.
So, you know, we're a hardworking group of people.
That's really high.
It's really high, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for our audience, Fourth Wall is at about 35% earned revenue, and I think that's probably closer to what most of the, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I know a lot of theaters run at about that. And so,
yeah, and or even 50-50, and you know, I don't regret that that's how we've grown. And again, it's by providing work for people. You know, we have the education department, people can teach. We have the theater for youth, people can do, you know, they can do the work children's theater during the day. Then we do, you know, the 𝗕𝗵𝗀𝗶𝘀 in Wolf Hall, so everybody gets a job.
So,
but yeah, go ahead.
For me, like, one of the things that keeps me coming back as an artistic director is there's, you know, I'll see a play or read a play, or I have some plays in my memory that I'm like, I'm not stopping until I at least get to do that play. You know, I've got that feeling about some plays. And do you have that feeling? And then if so, are there play titles that we won't steal? That you're willing to share?
No.
45 years later.
Maybe you're not like.
Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like.
I did them
I'm
all.
waiting for the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, if you know, if Tom Stoppard wants to write a new play, I'll be glad to.
There you go.
There you go.
I think his most recent, didn't he? He does have one that
He had
is.
something that was in London, right?
Yeah, and he said that was going to be his last play. No, I just, you know, there's just an infinite, you know, until it's not fun anymore, I'll just keep doing them.
Yeah. Well, good. That's how it should be. That's a good way to say it too, is that it's not fun anymore. And, you know, sometimes right now I don't feel like I'm having fun, but these are great talks. I love our talk day, but there are days where I feel like I don't think I'm having fun right now.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay, because theater will be back. Like I always tell everybody, I'm like, it's been around since the Greeks. It ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be back. It's just on a hiatus.
And organizations like Fourth Wall and Main Street to some extent, you know, we are smaller than the big institutions. So I always like to say, you know, we were closer to the ground. So when we fell, it was easier to get back up.
Yeah.
Or when you have a setback, it's not, you know, it's not earth shattering. I'm sure it feels that way to the people that we had to furlough, but
it's a shorter climb to be back on your feet again. Absolutely. Than it is for a giant organization. Yeah. With a big overhead, much higher overhead. And I know you have a big overhead with us with your renovation, which was beautiful, by the way. We love your new theater, I think most people have probably seen it, but there may be a few out there that didn't see what you did with the old original Main Street to turn it into the new Main Street, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, we love it. There's so many possibilities there. Even it's small. It's still small. We couldn't make it any bigger, but it's just the things we can do are so mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a lovely space. It's got great sound. It's got beautiful, just the whole visual from wherever you sit is just lovely. Yeah. It's a great space. And I hope that anybody who hasn't seen it gets out there and sees it. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because I'm remembering,
he's like, are you laughing at me?
I got to do, you were kind enough to hire me to be in a Tom Stoppard play. Which you directed, 𝗪𝗁𝗪. And I remember I'm laughing because it was before the space was renovated. And for anyone who was never in there were these two columns that right in the middle of the floor, about what, 15 feet apart, 20 feet apart?
15 feet apart, yeah.
And I remember when we were, rehearsing in there, and I said something like, well, Becky, what do you do about the columns? How should I handle the columns?
What did you say?
What did I say?
You said something like, just do the best you can, Philip.
Move around it, Philip. Just step on the other side of it, Philip. God, what are you, an actor or what?
But it made me laugh because they're gone.
Yes, they are gone.
Thank God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they were, they were an actor's friend, actually, the columns, because you could really play with them. You could hide behind them. You know, if you wanted to, if you had a long stretch on stage where you weren't a focus, you just kind of go over to the column and stand.
Lean on it.
And nobody sees you.
Well, and
you relax, hang out.
There were designers, I can think of specifically Megan Hakes. Designed the set for Doctor's Dilemma, and she used those columns as like part of a art gallery and hung frames between them and dividing the room in this ingenious way. Sometimes
there's some fun stuff that was done with
it. We did. You know, you have to use what you got. We couldn't take them out or the roof would fall down.
You absolutely do. Yep.
Yeah.
So. Well, let's see. So we have, let's see what other questions we have.
There's a question from Holly Barretto. Do you want to read that?
Yeah, let's read what Holly wrote. She says, so I'd like to know from Becky, it's obvious that language is a key component to Main Street's identity. What's a play that the theater produced where the language is something that captured Becky and continues to do so in your memory? Is there something particular language-wise that you just loved?
Dog Act.
Oh my God, Dog Act. I didn't see that, but I had people tell me that was the amazing play.
Well, and in fact, it's on our season again this year.
Oh, good. Because you did it before, right?
We did. Yeah, we did it in the summer. The first scene is full of the F-bomb. I mean, like every third syllable is the F-bomb. And at the time, we thought, oh, we can't do this in our subscription season. Our subscribers will just have a stroke. So we put it in the summer thinking we can be more adventurous in the summer. And of course, no one came to see it because they didn't know anything about it. So, but the language is brilliant. It's a post-apocalyptic vaudeville comedy. And what Liz Duffy Adams does with the language in this play is just incredible. And this year, the Alley is doing her Born with Teeth.
Born with Teeth, yeah.
So we thought, all right, we're going to do Dog Act. We'll have a little Liz Duffy Adams festival. So
that's awesome.
So, but that, that is just, I can't, it's hard to describe the language, but it becomes Shakespearean. The way these people talk to each other is a conglomerate of Shakespeare and patois. It's just brilliant.
That's awesome. So, I find that interesting when you talk about the F-bomb, but like, I've read plays that I thought, oh, I don't know, but I knew the play was so amazing, like Top the A Train.
Yeah.
The whole first 10 minutes of that plays the F-bomb, but I was like, it doesn't matter. That, people are going to maybe cringe a minute, and then when they start listening, they're going to be like, it has to be the F-bomb. You have to have
There's still people who react negatively to that, but I think it has in the 10 or 15 years since we first produced Dog Act. I think people's attitude towards that had changed a bit.
Yeah. I think people are willing to understand that sometimes language is a very important part of defining in somebody's world and their environment and their culture and where they come from and the time and whether it's modern or classic.
And in this play, the people who use that language are the bad guys, and the sort of people that you care about have this really wonderful language. So there is a contrast. It's not. It doesn't hold that language up as this is how we should all be talking.
Protagonist, villain, antagonist kind of thing. And so that's kind of fun. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it because I remember I know somebody told me that I should see it and I was either in something or I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's a good question. So what else should we ask? What should we finish up with? Should we do our regular
let's do
blooper?
We've been talking almost an hour.
Almost an hour.
Probably we
like our blooper
do you
question.
Do you have a theater story for us of
a funny thing or something
that went wrong?
That's a funny, great memory?
Yes. Which one shall I tell you?
No. Yeah. What's your favorite?
Well, it's really long. It's
You
probably
got 10 minutes.
We got 10 minutes.
probably the night that 𝗵𝗲𝗸𝗀𝗃 died twice. We had just moved into the Times Boulevard, and it was pretty crude. We didn't have any money. We just did what we could to turn that dry cleaners into a performing space, and used what talents we had. And so it was a pretty bare bones production. But we had, Kent Johnson, James Black played.
Oh, wow.
Caesar, I think. No, I can't remember what he played. Anyway, we had a really good cast. And the woman, do you know the play, Caesar and Cleopatra? It's the Shaw. And so 𝗵𝗲𝗸𝗃𝗃 is Cleopatra's maidservant.
Okay.
And she has a couple of entrances in the play. And there was a moment where, and you remember, Philip, the backstage at Main Street Theater is sort of, kind of a warren. So there were many actors who had long periods of time where they were not on stage. And that's a terrible thing to allow a lot of actors to be backstage with nothing to do because they're back there playing cards. So there's a moment where Cleopatra has a soliloquy. She finishes a soliloquy, and 𝗵𝗲𝗸𝗃𝗃, her maidservant, is supposed to come on and move the scene along. Well, Dorothy was playing cards and missed the entrance. So Cleopatra is making up a soliloquy. She's talking. Finally, somebody gets to Dorothy and says, "Get out there on stage." They said, "Dorothy, you missed your entrance." So she thought that she'd missed this entrance entirely. Her next entrance was when she falls from behind a curtain dead with a knife stuck in her back. So that's what she did. She went out on stage, and here's poor Cleopatra thinking, "At last I'm going to be rescued." But no, she just came out and died. And so the men were back behind the curtain waiting to go on. And I think James Black is the one who turned to Mark Walls and said, or Mark said to James, "Oh my God, Dorothy just died." James said, "Well, shouldn't we stop the show?" just one of those things that you had to be there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, Sharon Maddox said, "Do you remember the night you had a backstage fire and we had to evacuate?"
Oh yeah. Then there was that. When we did our renovation, it was before certain building codes had been upgraded, and it turned out that our electric meter was actually inside the building. So in the tech booth, behind the brick wall. So this was the opening or first preview of dinner at the 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗶𝘀. I can't remember if that's the full title, but we call it 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗀.
Okay.
And the transformer out in front of the theater on Times Boulevard arced and blew up the electrical meter. And so there are all these sparks coming out of the booth, and the lights are flickering and flickering. And so, I was there, we stopped the show, said, "I'm so sorry, but we seem to have a little electrical issue, so if everybody could please leave." And so we started walking out the front, but the transformer was arcing and throwing sparks all over the street. So we couldn't send and this was a preview audience. They were very much elderly for the most part.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to take them out that jankety back hallway, which I remember was uneven, and we went right into the parking lot of the bar behind us. And it took about 15 minutes to clear the theater because everybody was walking so slowly.
Oh my God.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I've always thought that would be kind of a good fundraising thing, is to take people like potential donors and show them how crappy backstage is.
Believe me, we did when we were doing our renovation. We did a lot of that.
You can't do that anymore.
I can't do it anymore. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You'll do it. Oh man.
Yeah, but
Oh,
your
that's
space
so
is
fun.
great. I love the way you all renovated that space. It's such a functional theater. It's really
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
it's
we
been
like
very
it.
good to us. We hope we can.
We hope we keep it.
Yeah.
We're working on it, right? Get
Yep.
us back
Yeah,
in the theater.
We're paying lots of rent every month for
Yeah.
nothing.
Like you, I know. Oh,
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we say goodbye? Because you've been kind enough to sit with us for an
Oh,
hour.
well, just thanks. This was a lot of fun. Reminds me of why I do what I do.
oh.
Good.
Well, we are so lucky that you did this with us, and you know how much we think of you, and thank you so much. We're so
Well,
happy
thank
to
you
see
both.
Yeah.
All right, good night, everybody.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, good night, everybody. Good night to our guests. Thanks for joining us. Bye, Becky. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to support Fourth Wall with a tax-deductible gift, or to subscribe to our upcoming 10th anniversary season.
Now, if we had the money that the ballet has, have you seen their
Oh, God, no.
they are so great.
Okay.
They do these.
I'll watch that.
Oh, you must.
Okay.
It just will lift your spirits.
Oh, good. I'll watch
They
the
have-
ballet.